What's up, good people of YouTube? It's me, Chavez, back with another video for you. In today's video, we'll be going over the NFL scoring system over on PrizePicks. Before we go any further, I just want to say it was this comment right here from Donnell Jenkins 088 that inspired this video. So thanks, Donnell, for dropping that comment. In this video, like I mentioned, we're going over the NFL scoring system. By the end of this video, I promise you, you're going to have a better understanding of the scoring system on PrizePicks. You'll also be able to use that scoring system along with a few tips that I'm going to share with you in this video to pick the best fantasy score player props over on PrizePicks. So if all that sounds good, stick around, drop a like, sub up, and click that notification icon. Get notified of all upcoming content and videos from me and this channel. And without further delay, let's go ahead and jump into that NFL scoring chart over on PrizePicks. All right, got the scoring chart pulled up on PrizePicks. Where can you find it? It is right here, first row, above the first row of players on PrizePicks. So go ahead and click the scoring chart hyperlink. It will pull up all offensive statistics that are tracked on PrizePicks. You'll have the amount of points that are associated to each stat, inclusive of defensive and special team statistics. In today's video, we'll only be covering the offensive stats. So real quick, let's just kind of scroll through this together. Passing yards, you see that is 0.04 points per yard. Passing touchdowns worth 4 points. Interceptions -1, fumbles lost -1. So very important to be familiar with the turnover points as well. Rushing yards, 0.1 point per yard. So when you gain 1 yard is 0.1. When you gain 10 yards, it is equal to 1 point. Receiving yards, the same system here. 0.1 points for every receiving yard you gain. Rushing touchdowns worth 6 points, so 2 points higher than your passing touchdowns. Receiving touchdowns just the same with 6 points. Receptions are worth 1 point. So keep in mind, this is a very important thing to know, especially when you're dealing with very high volume receivers like Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, guys who get double-digit targets per game, guys who catch 7, 8, 9 passes per game. Those 1 point per reception type of guys, man, they can really crush their fantasy scores. And quite the opposite for players who aren't high target guys, they are going to have to rely more on the receiving yards and touchdowns to hit the over on their fantasy score. So just keep that in mind. Fumbles lost, we already covered that. 2-point conversions. Now this is kind of cool because if you have a quarterback, receiver, quarterback, running back in your slip, and a 2-point conversion is good. Let's say quarterback to receiver, you have both of those guys in your lineup. You're going to get 2 points for each one. Quarterback threw a pass, to a receiver, and they each get 2 points for that. So that's kind of cool, and that's kind of a nice little correlation there to keep in mind. Offensive recovery touchdown, so 6 points. So let's say Josh Allen is running the ball, he fumbles it, it's picked up by Stephon Diggs, and he returns it for a touchdown. He would get 6 points for that touchdown. It wouldn't be a reception. It wouldn't be rushing yards. It would just get, it would just be rewarded for 6 points, and that would be factored into his fantasy score. And then kick, punt, field goal, return for a touchdown. Those are also worth 6 points. So basically, all your, non-passing, touchdowns are going to be worth 6 points. All right, we went through that kind of quickly. If you got any questions, drop a comment below or join the free player prop Discord and DM me. We can chop it up in the Discord if you have any questions about the scoring system. So I went ahead and selected 3 players that I want to use as examples on how to, create a story and create a, a step-by-step on how the fantasy scores will be, accumulated for each player. So 2 quarterbacks, 1 receiver. I picked Stephon Diggs because he's a very high volume receiver. And I'm gonna walk you through, what I kind of do when I look at fantasy scores, and if I decide to roll with it, I'm applying this logic to each prop. So let's start right at the top. We're gonna start with Trevor Lawrence. So let's go ahead and just pull up Trevor Lawrence up on the dash. And we're going to pull up all his props because we're going to use these props to build our story here. So we want the over on Trevor Lawrence's fantasy score, 17.5. 17.6 and above is what we're looking for. So we're going to go ahead and use the NFL scoring system. We're going to do the math, add up all these numbers, and then create our story. Sounds good? All right. So 248.5 passing yards for Trevor Lawrence. We need 249 for that to be the over. So we're going to play the bare minimum on all these, because what I like to do is kind of play that bare minimum angle. And if it all adds up to the over, then I feel pretty confident. So knowing that this player doesn't have to have the best game in order for him to get the over on his fantasy score is a good thing. So 249 passing yards times 0.0, that is what's rewarded for each yard thrown. 9.96 is our number here. So moving on to his rushing yards, we know that it's 0.1 points per yard. We need 15 for this to go over. That's 1.5 total points there. That gives us a 11.46 score so far. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky here, because Trevor Lawrence does not have a passing touchdown prop. Instead, he has a kind of like a total touchdown prop, pass rush and receiving. But for the sake of this video, remember, we want to play that bare minimum angle. Let's say he does go over this, but he throws 2 touchdowns instead of running for 1 or, running for 2, because those passing touchdowns are worth fewer points. So he throws for 2 touchdowns. That's 8 points. Let's go ahead and add the 8 points in there, and that gives us 19.46 fantasy points. Now, he does have an interception prop as well. So let's say he throws 1 interception Sunday versus the Bills, and that now takes us to 18.46 fantasy points. So really feel good about this, because we played the bare minimum and we included a turnover in this whole story. And with that turnover, we still have the over on Trevor Lawrence's fantasy score here. So we built a pretty cool story here. Using the available props over on PrizePicks, we figured out that this is very possible for him to go over his fantasy score of 17.5. Therefore, I would have no problem taking the over on this one. So there's example number 1. Let's go ahead and clear out the trusty calculator app, and let's move on to CJ Stroud's fantasy score of 17. Now, CJ Stroud has a very, very similar line to Trevor Lawrence, so a lot of the math will be the same here. So let's go ahead and pull up same exact passing yard prop for CJ Stroud. So we know 249 times that 0.04 is going to give us 9.96. Same rushing yard prop, so let's go ahead and add that 1.5. Now, the difference is CJ Stroud actually has a passing touchdown prop of 1.5. So if he does go over this, it has to be 4 points per touchdown. So there is no choice here. Let's say he goes over this with 2 touchdowns. Let's go ahead and add in those 8 points. Now we're at 19.46. So far, we are at the exact same spot that we were with Trevor Lawrence. Now, I want to do something a little different here, because CJ Stroud does not have a turnover prop available to us on PrizePicks. CJ Stroud has yet to throw an interception this season. As a rookie quarterback, that's pretty damn good. Let's say this game versus Atlanta is a bit different. Let's say CJ Stroud goes out there and throws an interception, and let's just say he turns the ball over 2 times. All right, rookie on the road versus Atlanta. Could be a game where he doesn't have the best results. So let's go ahead and factor in 2 turnovers for this one. And the reason I want to do this one is now it gives us a really real idea of what could happen here, and we're not exaggerating with this process. We're playing it pretty mild here, and we're accounting for turnovers. Even with the turnovers, we're still getting the over on CJ Stroud's fantasy score. So now we know if he goes out there and does what we think he can do, and he only turns the ball over 1 time, even more fantasy points. If he goes out there and doesn't turn the ball over at all, even more fantasy points. So it's good to play those games with the turnovers, because you always want to factor those in. You never want to be taken off guard with those turnovers. At the end of the day, they count just the same. So let's go ahead and clear this out, and let's move on to Stephon Diggs. Okay, Stephon Diggs pulled up. We got receiving yards, we got fantasy score, we got receptions, and that's pretty much it. So let's start with the receiving yards for Stephon Diggs. Let's go ahead and pull this up. 84.5 receiving yards for Stephon Diggs. Now, we know that you get it's basically, 0.1 point per yard. So we think he's going to get 85 receiving yards to go over this. We're just going to go ahead and 0.1 times that, and that gives us 8.5 points. We know you get 1 point per reception. We think he goes over this. He needs 7 to do so. So let's just go ahead and add in 7 points. So right there between receiving yards and receptions, we're at a 15.5 fantasy score. Now, what's going to get us over this? He could very well get 100 yards and 7 receptions. Now that gives us only 17. Really, the question that we have to ask ourselves is, can Stephon Diggs score a touchdown? Can Stephon Diggs get in the end zone? So if we think he can get in the end zone, we know that a receiving touchdown is worth 6 points, and now that brings us to 21.5 fantasy points. So sometimes you really just have to ask yourself that question. Can they get into the end zone? Can they score a touchdown? Now, it's possible that Stephon Diggs may not even need that touchdown, because he could very well end the game with 10 receptions and 100 yards and get 20 points, something like that. But we don't want to exaggerate on the receiving yards or receptions. We want to keep this pretty reasonable and create a believable story. So if I told you that Stephon Diggs is going to score a touchdown this week, probably wouldn't sound too far-fetched, because it's kind of what he does, right? So we factor in touchdown, receptions, and receiving yards. We did the math using the NFL scoring system on PrizePicks, and it gives us 21.5 points. Let's just say he fumbles the ball. Let's say he fumbles one time, and we're still at 20.5 points. So based off this, he does have some wiggle room here. And again, anytime you have these flat numbers like the 18.0, it does give you some push potential, which could be good, it could be bad. But again, pushes do not destroy slips. They still keep you alive to profit. So we just covered 3 different scenarios: 2 quarterbacks, 1 receiver, looking at their fantasy score, looking at the additional player props that are available to us, doing some simple math using the NFL scoring chart on PrizePicks. We use all this to create a nice story, believable story. So based off what we learned, based off what we covered in this video, we should feel pretty good. We should feel pretty confident in taking the over on all 3 of these player props. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for today's video. Bit of a different video, but drop a comment below. Let me know if you like this type of content. Let me know what you think about this type of content. I would love to do more videos like this. Let me know if you found this to be beneficial in any sort of way. Thanks again for stopping by the channel, helping it grow every single day. Truly appreciate it. Again, link to the free player prop Discord can be found in this description. Best of luck to you all, whatever you're playing this weekend. I hope you win. I hope you win big. And until my next player prop video, Chavez is